back to Beyond.The.Mic Politics, guys. I'm Yeyya,
I'm Xiomara.
and we are joined with a new guest, a new permanent fixture of BTM Politics. Introduce yourself to the people.
Hello, my name is Abby.
And we are so excited to be talking about politics with you once again. So let's get straight into it. Last week we had the debate, VP debate. Breath of fresh air, honestly, compared to all the other things that we've seen with debating in the last year, couple years or so. So I'm gonna start with you, Abby. What was your impression of both of the candidates?
My impression, well, I'll start with like the overall debate. I feel like it was just very civil.
Yeah,
Like that's something that we haven't really seen as much of, like in very recent debates
at all, actually.
So it was actually kind of refreshing. I feel like I can go as far as to say it was kind of like boring, like in like old American politics like type of way. So that was really refreshing to see. Don't get me wrong, there were like still a lot of issues that were like addressed and like still some things that kind of like made it look kind of sideways, but it was definitely a different vibe from like the past debates that we've seen.
For sure.
I agree. I mean, I think one of the things that was interesting was that Senator Vance and Tim Walz, they both agreed a lot. And and I mean, I know we're very, very, like, we live in a very, very polarized nation, but like the fact that they were agreeing so much on issues, especially when the two candidates feel like they're completely different, was just very, very surprising, as both of them are vice presidents or running to be vice president.
Yeah. Something that I was saying, like, in conversation with other people is that, like, you can tell, like, J.D. Vance does not have a Yale degree for nothing. Like, he's so articulate, very well-spoken. Honestly, my first impression of him, like, the first couple videos I saw of him, I was like, this guy's a bit of an oddball. Like, I thought he was a weirdo. Like, he just seemed very awkward, like he didn't know how to take social cues or something. I was like, maybe this is a robot. But then watching him, like, on the debate stage, I was like, okay, like, this is somebody that can actually have, like, conversation, can come to a consensus. One thing that I noticed about J.D. Vance that is very different from his running mate is that he actually can acknowledge, like, when the Republican Party has shortcomings. Like, one thing that he was coming back to a lot was the Republican Party needs to do better, especially on the female front with abortion and Roe v. Wade and everything like that. And he repeatedly said we need to do better at regaining the people's trust, which is the first time that I've ever heard like somebody on Trump's ticket say something like that. I think he is a much better fit for vice president than Mike Pence, because like when you think about Mike Pence, what do you really think about? The fly in his forehead. Like, let's be real. So I thought it was very interesting. Of course, like, I don't agree with him politically, as we all know.
Yeah.
But like, some of his policy stances were actually like making sense. You know, and it wasn't just like concepts of a plan.
No, yeah, that's something that I noticed as well. Something else is that like I felt like he didn't really agree with Trump on a lot, but he said, "Oh, our overall goal is the same," but like their policy like kind of views were kind of
I feel like that's kind of dangerous for a ticket though, because it's like we've seen Trump say kind of like, "Oh, like JD doesn't speak for me," things like that, and I feel like if they continue to go on kind of like diverging paths almost with their answers, like that can undermine their ticket, because Trump is a very strong figure politically and in like pop culture and stuff. JD Vance is also very strong politically, has a very strong support base. But if they start to give two different answers, like the Republican Party is just
It's going to undermine them.
Exactly, it's gonna fall apart even more than it already is falling apart.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, one of the things is like how they even mentioned during the debate, like J.D. Vance has compared Trump to Hitler. So it's like
That part.
To me, it's like to go from, oh, you know, like Trump is Hitler, like comparing him to Hitler, to being like, oh, well, you know, like I don't agree with everything, but, you know, I regret some of the stuff I said because you got chosen to be vice president.
That's a huge.
It's a huge red flag.
Right.
I don't trust it.
No, yeah, especially because like as you said, he went from like saying, "Oh, like comparing him to Hitler," to saying he's the best president of my lifetime.
Like that's
Where
a
does that
huge
come
180.
from?
It's one thing to like not like a president and then like change your mind about it after, because like obviously I'm a strong believer that whenever you receive new information or whenever you go through like a new experience in life, it's okay for you to change your perspective. Like, you don't have to be grounded in the same ideas for your whole life. Like, human beings are not supposed to be static. They're not supposed to be static in their mindset or anything like that. But how do you go from calling somebody Hitler to being like they're basically their right hand man? Like, that's something other than changing your mindset.
Exactly.
That's like you were cloned in a lab and then you had a new like memory stick inserted and now you're a whole different person. Like, that's crazy to me. I cannot get over, like, I don't know if it's causing some type of like cognitive dissonance in him or if he just really changed. I know that he felt like he was very alienated from the left after he published his book Hillbilly Elegy. Like, a lot of the comments he received on it was like, he was like, yeah, like, I'm done with these guys. But to go running into the arms of the man you called Hitler, when was 2016? 8 years ago? It's a little suspect.
It's a little suspect.
Exactly.
If you ask me. One thing that Vance mentions, and I think it comes up a lot in debates, especially like from Trump, is the trade deficit with China. And I don't know why they haven't been fact checked on this yet, because according to Statista, the highest that the Chinese trade deficit, the deficit between the U.S. and China was in the last 10 years, so from 2013 to now, was during Trump's term. $418 billion difference in the deficit in 2018, I believe. And then the lowest was in 2023 when Biden was in office, $279 billion. And according to the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, so this is real, like, U.S. stuff. Like, this is coming from the government straight. As of August, the international trade deficit, so not just with China, was $70.4 billion. So it's been going down steadily. So I don't know what these two pigeons are talking about. But let's talk about the economy. Let's talk about inflation, because we're all broke. And this inflation thing is not looking good. How much y'all be spending on groceries every day? or every 2 weeks?
It's painful.
You stop in Target or something, like, downtown, it's convenient. If you live on campus, you spend at least $50 on maybe like 2 days worth of food.
No.
Yeah.
Not even. So it's like, when are we going to catch a break? When?
And especially we're college students, like, it's expensive to live. It's expensive to have rent. Like, it's just so expensive.
And state college, too, is like...
Yeah, it's like weirdly expensive, especially groceries. Like,
yeah. But in the AP article, they said that inflation is currently at the lowest point that it's been since February 2021. And I think it's important for people to know, like, the difference between, like inflation rates and, like, the prices right now. Because it's slowing down. Like, the rate of inflation is going down. But obviously, we're still going to feel some of those pressures. I don't know how well versed you guys are in economic policy, but talk to me about what you guys think is the best way to go to help Americans, like, mitigate the pressures of inflation.
Dang, that's a deep question.
I don't even have an answer for y'all. So I just wanna know.
Me neither.
I feel like a part of me wants to say, like, raise wages, and at this point, with how high prices are, like, across the board, we just need to raise wages. But all at the same time, like, there's a conflict, because when you do that, like, bigger cost to employers gets translated to consumers, and it's an endless cycle where it's like the consumers whose wages just have been raised, they're spending more on products, and it's kind of like you're gonna have to keep on continuing that.
Yeah.
So finding a solution that just kind of levels prices and creates more stability might be a challenge. So I don't have an exact answer for that, but something's got to get done.
Yeah. I mean, taxing wealthier individuals would be much helpful. I feel like that would...
That part.
Yeah,
that part. Xiomara and I did a presentation in our class we had together last semester about, like, taxing wealthier individuals. I don't know why it's always, like, the people in, like, the middle class that are like, no. Elon Musk worked for that money. He deserves to keep it all. Like, that's his money. Bro, is he paying you? You are not seeing a cent of that money. So why don't you he can share a little.
I remember that they were talking about, like, both sides were arguing, like, whether there should be tax cuts or whether there shouldn't be tax cuts. And I remember that when we were looking at it, especially during COVID, was that basically corporations fired a lot of people during COVID. And, like, that just... expanded, like, in terms of, like, wealth inequality and just, like, you know, individual lives of, like, not even being able to afford living because you don't have a job. So it's like tax cuts is really not the way.
Right. Urban Outfitters has been catching heat for price gouging, so now they're like supposedly supposed to like lower their prices, and I feel like we need to do that more. Like, you know how Biden was going after Ticketmaster at one point? Actually, I don't even know what happened with that.
Was it with their fees?
Their
Like, not
fee-
being transparent?
Their 5,000 fees,
Mhm.
yes, the ticket fee, the sitting down fee, the breathing fee, all of that. Like, oh my god. But yeah, so Biden was going after Ticketmaster. I actually don't know what happened with that. I have to go and do further research. But I feel like he should do something like that more. Like, because companies are literally price gouging things. Like, I saw a picture this girl took, and it was of like a plunger or a broom or something, and they had shown like what the price was before. It was $11 at first, and they marked it down to $2.
Really?
Yes, that's literally like almost 6 times. Like, that's like 6 times less basically of what it was originally. And they're not going to be selling anything that they're not going to be able to make a profit off of. So you're telling me you're selling something for $2 and you're still making a profit, but before you were selling it for $11. Like, you need to go to hell, like straight to the fence. So it's like, I feel like there should be more policy targeting corporations like that, because there's no way I'm going to be paying $7 for a case of water. You know it does not cost that much to make a case of water. Please be serious. But one thing, like, we joke about it because it's so dumb. But the thing is, like, this type of stuff is, like, so scary.
True.
Like, we're getting into an age now where people feel way too comfortable dismissing experts. Like, and this is something that Vance was talking about, too, in the debate. He was like, yeah, the economic experts, like, we shouldn't listen to them. We should just... Donald Trump knew not to listen to them and just listen to good old common sense. May I
They're
just say...
experts for a reason.
May I just say 6 bankruptcies. Like, I'm not listening to somebody that has gone bankrupt not once, not twice, not thrice. 6 times! I'm not listening to you for economic advice. I'm so sorry. But the rejection of intellectuals and, like, people that actually spend years on years on years researching this type of stuff is so scary to me. Because, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to say the big word. It is his reminiscent of fascist rhetoric. Like, this is what Mussolini was talking about when he was saying, like, it's okay, like, don't listen to anybody else. Like, I'm the guy that has all the information you need. Like, we have people specializing in stuff for a reason. It's scary.
Exactly. Like, and that just kind of, like, reminds me of the time of his presidency. COVID got so bad
True.
because he was ignoring the experts.
Yeah, he didn't want to listen to them.
If there were some type of, like, effort to, like, kind of mitigate the spread or do anything before it got so big, maybe things would have been different. Maybe not. But still, like, it proves to show that, like, you can't just keep on ignoring the experts and saying, oh, I know what I'm doing. No, you don't.
But you don't.
It's okay. You don't. That's what that's what your cabinet is for. That's what the agencies are for.
And your advisors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's an administration.
It's okay.
It's
you
an
can listen to people.
It's
like,
everyone,
it's
not just you. It's
fine.
okay.
It's like, what's not a good idea?
It's just
scary.
you look back at his administration, and it just kind of makes my jaw drop. That there are people who are like, yeah, seems legit. It's fine. Like, I don't know. It's just so much.
These policies. But let's really get into the role of the vice president. All the vice president does is just an advisor to the president, and if need be, the tie-breaking vote if Congress is trying to vote on a bill. That is literally all. That's why for the past, however long America has been running for, the past couple centuries, the vice presidential debate has never mattered, because the vice president, in all honesty, is not that big of a player in the executive house. Like, I would say that even some congressmen and women have more legislative authority than Harris does, which is why I'm always like, because, like, you would never say, what did Mike Pence do in his 4 years of office? Because you don't expect Mike Pence to do anything, except maybe be like a landing strip for flies. That's it. You do not expect the vice president to do anything. So I thought his foundation of that was a little shaky. Like, if it's really that, point those critiques to Biden and not Harris, because she's just there for the vibes. She's just there to get her silk press and go.
To see the vice president, I feel, has just as much of an importance in the role in terms of, like, the decisions that are being made. Wait, what is it? She did over 200 tie-breaking votes, like, when she was in Congress. Like, that's a huge amount. That's, like, a huge role. And, like, even thinking about, like, campus clubs, like, president, vice president, like, both roles are, like, not equally important, but, like, both roles are, like, important in terms of, like, serving the greater good. And so, definitely, like, I believe, like, even, like, I believe it's, like, that role is important, but, like, even, for example, like, seeing Trump and J.D. Vance, like, they're, like you said, they're kind of, like, J.D. Vance doesn't agree with everything that Trump says, but, like, you know, what, like, he's still, like, the vice president at the end of the day. Like, he's going to have, in some way, some power to do something, if that makes sense. And so there definitely is importance with that role. But we'll see, like,
happen.
I love it. I love when we have a little bit of disagreement. I hope we get more of that on here. I'm trying to argue. Like.
One more thing I'll say is that, I mean, like, once again, when you look at Trump, I mean, you just gotta be cautious because, like, God forbid something were to happen, like, during his presidency, Vance is the next one in line.
ooh.
You have to make sure.
I would
he knows
trust
what
Vance
he's
more than I
doing.
trust Trump. I'm telling you now. Let it be on the record.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
God. Like, this is the wettest we've seen in the standpoint of water. Like, I'm not trusting somebody that says that about a hurricane.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
To be my president. Are you smoking? Like, what are you talking about? But let's wrap up with some campus events. So, you guys both saw the thousands of flags that were planted on Hub Lawn today. In memory, they've been SPJ, Students for Palestinian Justice, I think is the organization on campus. For the whole week, they've been doing things because October 7th was on Monday, so it's been 1 year since the conflict in Gaza. I'm gonna localize this a little bit and just talk about, like, the attitudes on campus. Like, I know there was a protest. I think it was Monday. Did y'all see that on Onward State?
I was in class.
Oh, no.
There was like a protest at the Allen Street gates and everything. Like, how do you guys think? Obviously, we're so far away from the conflict, and it's been on everybody's mind. Like, it's been talked about on the debate stages. It's been talked about on social media. It's been talked about in classes, on campus. Just like, how are you guys seeing this type of tension at the international scale boil down to, like, a local level? Y'all can marinate on that for a second.
That's a deep question.
It is.
You know, I only like to ask deep questions. We don't have time for no superficial stuff.
I'll say, okay, I'll, like, refer to this one protest that I covered last year. I remember being there. Like, they started walking the streets from the Allen Street gate after, like, kind of talking about, like, what's going on. Like, you know, the intro to the protest. And I don't know, like, you could just feel, like, I don't know how to explain it, but you could just feel
Tension.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, like, there were a lot of people, like, passing by, like, screaming, like, the most obscene things. And I was like, are you serious? Like, let's be so for real.
It's, like, even though, like, it's an international thing, like, for example, like, we have international students on campus, like, they're, like, for example, like, even though the issue is, like, so big, like, it affects so many people individually, and it could possibly be affecting, like, their families and things along that line. And so it's, like, I can see why it's such an important issue, and, like, tensions are so high, you know? And, like, especially, like, on campus, like, we have a space to be able to, like, to have these conversations, like, and talk about these things. Like, people aren't agreeing in terms of, like how, you know, like, people, it's, like, it's just not an agreeing time, you know? And it's, like, people are, like, really feeling, like, sadness and everything like that because of, like, what's happening. And it's, like, that's a very real feeling to have.
Not an agreeing time is a great way to put it. I just want to ask, too, like, why do you guys think, especially, like, our generation, I guess, feels so strongly about stuff going on overseas? Like, even in Ukraine, wherever you look at, like, even in maybe, like, the Congo, like, anywhere that there's having conflict, like, our generation or college students in general have always seemed to, like, be very vocal about it, even though the U.S. at times has adopted kind of a separationist policy. Like, since we're so isolated from the rest of the world, geographically, you know, and even freaking George Washington was like, yeah, like don't try not to get too involved in like foreign politics. Like, why do you guys think we have such a strong desire to like make change, especially at this age?
Well, I think that in terms of like making change, I always felt like a lot of it kind of always came from the college level. Like if we think about like the civil rights movement, like sitting on counters, like that was always like from like usually young people getting
Vietnam
involved.
War,
Yeah, exactly. Protesting, getting involved with like civic advocacy, and trying to make a change. But I also do think that like you do bring up a good point in terms of like I feel like the social consciousness of America has definitely like shifted where have such a higher awareness of things that are happening, not just within our own communities and like the things that are happening within America, but things that are happening around the world. And I do think a big reason of that is definitely social media, because of the fact that like you can get on your phone and see issues that are happening anywhere around the world. I think that it definitely has increased our level of care, and especially because it's one thing to hear about it, but then it's another thing for it to be so graphic and you can see it. Like if we think about like, for example, like Emmett Till, in terms of like, I remember learning this in history, but like the first thing was that Emmett Till's mother was like, make sure that the casket is open so that it's for all to see. I think when there's an image and when there's like videos of like what's physically happening, then people are able to connect more with it than just words on a paper. Even though, what is it? A picture is 1,000 words. Yeah. Like, I think that's one of the reasons why we're so much more, we're very engaged in advocacy in life.
That's happening.
Yeah, seeing people like halfway across the world, but seeing them on your screens kind of like humanizes them, is kind of what I'm getting at, like from what you were saying. Abby, any last words?
One more thing, I'll say, like, I feel like people care because they realize the part that the U.S. can play, whether it be sending aid or funding. So that's something that, like, our generation pays attention to, especially because it comes from our tax dollars.
Like,
heavy on that part. She hit the money on that part, literally.
Yeah, so I feel like where people's money is going, especially now, when we consider the economy, too, people are like, why are we funding certain things going on, or like why are we not doing this or that, while like kind of observing what's going on, if you get what I mean.
Exactly. I know like that was one of Trump's big gripes too, is that like our economy is in shambles, and you know we're sending more money to Ukraine than like other NATO nations are, which I think is a fair point, to be very honest. But we don't have the time to get too deep into foreign policy. Maybe we can do another episode on that. But to my BTM Politics fam, thank you guys again for sticking with us through this. I guess I would like to leave you guys a question, some food for thought. Do you guys think that we have an obligation to care about what's going on overseas, or do you think that a more America first mindset is needed for, like, should we put us first, or do we have an obligation to invest emotional energy into stuff going on across the world? That's all we have for you today. Make sure to tune into Beyond.The.Mic, whether that's BTM Politics, BTM Entertainment, BTM Sports. We have something for everybody. Thank you. Much love. Peace out.